It's another episode of, Leanne, what show are we in here? Pursuit of Profit.
Yes.
It's like, it's Halloween today, actually, at the time of this recording.
Yes. And I'm at home.
I like it. The home office is beautiful.
Thanks.
We're in the Bermuda Triangle here. Well, I'm excited for this topic. One, because you're letting me kind of go through some distinctions that I shared at a previous meeting, but I'm really excited for how we get to map that to money, because it is an exact map to money. So we're talking about money and the hero's journey. All of you guys that are familiar with different marketing perspectives, storytelling is very popular right now. Mm-hmm. And the hero's journey is sort of one of the things people are using to teach storytelling from a marketing perspective. So that's what we're going to walk through. Anything you want to say, Leanne, to like set the stage for what we're doing in this episode? No? How about how great it was when I shared this handout? You're like, oh, I just had to have you share this handout.
Yeah, well, the story is that I have a notebook full of really good marketing ideas.
Yeah.
And I found my notebook because I was looking for a marketing idea.
Yeah.
And I came across this brilliant handout, which I'm sure everybody's going to want us to post with it.
Okay, yeah.
This brilliant handout from Krista's business, which is Groundswell. Yeah. And it's the hero's journey. And I looked at this and I'm like, this is brilliant. It applies to finances perfectly. We got to talk about that on our show.
It does.
So
it's funny because I started revisiting it for this episode and I'm like, whoa, money maps over this perfectly. Because you always talk about how money, like it's about our behavior with money. And as we go through these different seasons, if you will, of the hero's journey, or you listening to this, your journey in business, you're going to hear how behavior shows up in your business, but also that affects how you behave with your money. So Leanne, let's give them the overview of the hero's journey.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and backfill with money talk. So,
okay. Tell us a story, Chris.
Yeah. Well, once upon a time, there was a little entrepreneur. Well, here's what I want to know. Like, so first of all, picture a circle, because that's going to represent sort of our timeline of the journey. The first half of the circle from the bottom to the top, and I'm kind of going counterclockwise. So at 6 o'clock on a clock, counterclockwise up to 12 o'clock. That first half of the journey is sort of like, you go out into the world, you answer the call to start a business. Frodo leaves the Shire and goes out, like everything's still like honky-dory. And then you kind of encounter some turbulence and it's not until the top of your journey that you start to figure out who you really are. Mm-hmm. And then from 12 o'clock back, counterclockwise back down to 6 o'clock now. So the second half of this circle is really sort of what we call your return path. It's like, this is where you've learned the wisdom of the ages. You come back now fully in your purpose and in your power, right? Where the transformation of you has happened and you now get to be masterful with your life and your business and your money all the way back to your home until you die. Mm-hmm. So that is, in a very short nutshell, that is sort of like the two halves of this story. The first one is you finding yourself, and the second one is you sharing yourself with the world once you have mastered what you're here to master in this lifetime. So any thoughts on that so far?
Nope.
Okay. All right, good. Story. Yeah. We're all just setting groundwork here. So
we're just dying to hear the story.
There is no story. There's no like story. There's just the, what I'm interested in for you listening to this is to hear where you are this. So I'm going to give you 3 very specific places that you could be. Okay. This is where people get stuck. And I'm going to tell you where it starts, and this is not the first place. So where it starts is you answering the call to go into business. Some of you listening to this may be in that space. You're like, I am now in business for myself. And you're out there. You don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And you also are learning. You're also finding out what you don't know, from landing pages to email CRMs to profit and loss statements, which Leanne hates, to like all these business questions and things that you're like now swimming in details. And this is only from the first quarter of your journey. Once you get to about, keep using the clock. Once you get to about 3 o'clock on the clock in your journey, so the first quarter of your journey, you start, because of time in the business, you start to figure some things out.
Yeah.
Things start to click. And so then this next little piece, probably until about from 3 o'clock till about 1 o'clock, on the clock. You start producing results. You start making money. You start getting clients. You start having systems and things are working, right? And towards about 1 o'clock, you might be at the top of your field. Like you are really producing and cranking it out. And then you reach this moment that I call stymied. Mm-hmm. You become stymied. It's not because you don't know anymore. Now you're stymied because you're like, is this all there is? Like you start to be bored by your work, right? You start to be frustrated or burned out, plateaued, right? Some of the symptoms that we see for people in the stymied phase of their business is that they shoot from the hip. They're working long hours, right? They're inconsistent and they're doing everything. Like they do it all, right? And you, the one that's doing it all, know that you can't sustain this anymore. You're like, this is not what I thought I was getting into when I started a business. And now you know, now you know what you don't know about all of it. And you're like, I don't know if I like what I'm seeing.
Right.
And you're ready for something new. Like the pain points at the stymied phase is you're swamped, right? You're stressed, you're stuck, and you're looking for something new. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You might even be asking yourself a question like, is this as good as it gets? Like I invested how much money and how many hours of my life to be away from my family for this? Is this as good as it gets?
Yeah.
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 And your desire is that you're wanting more, like you're wanting more for your life and for your business and for yourself and for your money than this.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Just today I was, I had somebody come into my office that I've been working with for a while. And she said to me, you know what? I wish that I would have known how to search term or Google you. Like wouldn't know how to look for you. But what I know is that I reached a place in my business where she was stymied, completely stymied. Yep. And she's like, I just wanted to walk away from it, but I felt stuck. Yep. And I want, like everything you're describing. Yep. This is the conversation I had with this woman today. Yep. And what got her out of that is that she had an awareness that she either needed to completely change the path that she was on, as far as business is concerned, or she had to completely transform her business so that it was enriching her life again. And what I'm finding more and more, actually, I can see a real trend. I'm finding that business owners severely underpay themselves all the time, which is something we're always talking about here. Yeah. And that equation flips when the business starts paying the business owner what they should be paying the business owner. Something about being compensated for all of that hard work. Something about feeling, not just seeing the return on investment has something to do with that. So a lot of times when people are stymied, like every symptom you just read off is totally like almost a perfect adjective list of the human beings who come and sit in my office either by Zoom like this or personal, and they're just like, I'm stuck. And I've tried to fix this money mess. I've tried to get out of the financial fog. They've made money. There's a revenue model. So it's not like I'm talking to startups that are like, why am I not paying myself? What I'm talking to is business owners who have fairly mature businesses. Yeah. And they're just like, I cannot keep doing it this way anymore. Whether it means I have financial chaos and there's no organization and there's no system and there's no plan for profit other than make more money, which doesn't work. Right. And then, or if it's just like you were describing, that person who's just working all the time and their business has taken over their life. And when that happens and there's no paycheck attached to it or a bad paycheck attached to it, this is why people stay stymied financially. It's a terrible place to be. I've been there. Yeah. I know you've been there. Yeah, absolutely. But we've also gotten out of it. Right? So it's just important to recognize that if you're there, if you're stymied, you don't have to stay there. You can get out. Yeah. And it's great because it's perfect because the solution to people who are stuck in the stymied phase of business is perspective. The solution for you is perspective, right? And so this is why, Leanne, when you offer the profit discovery calls, like this is why that's such a great solution for people who are in that space, because you're showing them things they couldn't have seen. You're giving them new perspective
for how to create profit. They haven't seen it up to this point. They're like, I just don't know. The perspective they've had is what has them stymied, and they need new perspective to get to the other side.
Yep, that's true.
That is, it's funny to think about people who are in a stymied place, like what they do with money. Like when you're shooting from the hip with your marketing, guess what you're doing with your money, right? You're shooting from the hip with your money. You're like, I don't know. Let's see if this one works. Let's boost that post, and hopefully let's buy that ad. Let's buy this website. And we just start throwing money at stuff in the hopes of not being bored, in the hopes of, right, like breaking through the plateau, or medicating the burnout.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, that's true, right?
I do that.
I know. Find
a new object. Squirrel.
Yeah, I know. But this is why this is so great, because you can actually see exactly how what you're doing in your business. This is all behavior. So you're frustrated, or you're shooting from the hip with marketing, but you're also shooting from the hip with money, most likely. And so, if you want, I can give this to you, and you can make it available for your audience. This sheet.
I think we'll accept. Thank you.
But just go through the list and start to look at which column are you, which season of life are you in? And then specifically like fill in the blank with like shoots from the hip with ... marketing, shoots from the hip with ... money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just like fill in the blank with money at the end of it and be like, oh yeah, inconsistent with money, right?
Yeah.
Does it all. So it doesn't work, I guess, with all of them. Does it all with money. Well, maybe that does work. You're like trying to fix everything with money. Maybe you're like throwing money at the problem. Anyway. Yeah. Okay, that's stymied. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay. So what happens is once you get to the end of stymied, there is a chance for you to break through. But it's not exactly what people would think. Most people think, okay, I'm stymied. Now I'm going to break through and I'm going to see everything clearly. But actually, that's not totally what happens. You do enter this new space. So now on the clock, we're talking about 1 o'clock to about 11 o'clock, okay, at the top of the clock. And this little season of life, okay, is what I call stalled. It's this window of time where you're no longer stymied, like you're no longer bored or burned out, but you are like, okay, I think I've come into some new space. I'm open to new things, but you don't actually know what it is yet. You don't know what the next thing is yet, right? So people in the stalled space often feel anxious because they're like, I feel like I can breathe deeper, but I don't know what's next. And so it's like, what do I do? They could be confused a lot of times. Like, well, if it's not that, what is it? I don't know what it is yet. What am I supposed to do? They might feel lost. They're very much in a seeking frame of mind. I'm already seeing where money comes into this, right? Because if you're in a stalled space in business and you're anxious, confused, lost, or seeking, you might start to spend your money on Hail Marys.
Yeah.
Right? Have you seen that?
Every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna buy a course that's gonna help me make $1 million. Right.
Right.
I'm gonna go to the ClickFunnels.
Yeah. Right.
Conference. I'm gonna. It's like looking for. I love that the financial Hail Mary.
Yeah.
It's not about boredom at that point. It's not like, hey, I'm looking for a lifeline. It's like I'm trying to uncover my opportunities, and in that stage of stalled, this is where we see spending gets out of control. It's like the spending. You can learn a lot about your humanity by looking at your business checkbook and what you do when you don't spend money on.
Yeah.
But in that season when people are stalled, they totally get into that mindset of I'm investing back into my business, and every investment that I make for my business is a good business decision, is what they are thinking. And so money is attached to that. Money goes out the door into the tunes of tens of thousands of dollars at times. And then when they don't see that loop back of return, then they can very, very carefully, very easily, bump themselves back to stymied. Like I feel like there's vacillation with money on that.
Vacillation.
It's like oop, down, up, down, up, down. So if you're in that stalled stage, the symptom with money is that you are looking to spend more money to make money. And that should be a big red flag to you. That maybe I should reconsider this business decision or this purchase.
I think sometimes too, people, because it's this season, this stalled season, there is, none of us it's a very uncomfortable season of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't force it. It's a thing. So I think what happens is, because we're up until the stymied phase, we could like just go hustle and grind and we would produce a result. So we could exert force, right? And something would happen, maybe just out of sheer dumb luck or hustle or whatever. But when you're in this stalled phase, there's this waiting thing that is sort of required for truth or inspiration or what's next to reveal itself. And if you're not patient for that, then what'll happen is you'll use money or other things to try to force an answer. And this is why you'll see people spending money on courses. They'll spend money to invest in a nonprofit. They'll go into investments. They thought they're grasping for what's next because it's not clear yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Good distinction.
Yeah. Let me give you a couple more symptoms and some other descriptions of this, and then we'll move into the third one. So people, when they're stalled, right? Oftentimes it can feel like coasting. Like you're not really trying to do much. You're just kind of coasting.
Not getting anywhere.
You're just phoning it in, right? You're putting in just enough hours. It's not right. I'm doing enough to keep it going. It's very uncomfortable. And you do the work that you do conflicted. It's like, I'm going to do the work to keep my business going because it's paying the bills. It's providing my lifestyle, but I'm like, it's not really it. Right. So you're having this confliction of like being stuck in your business, but not knowing what's next. Some of the pain points for somebody who's stalled is that it's oftentimes, it can be scary because you're like, everybody wants to feel like we have a sense of control or power in our lives. And when you're waiting, that doesn't feel very powerful. And that comes with being scared. Also suppressed, you might feel like, because you don't know how to, you don't know what's next. You don't know how to come out to the world with this is my big plan. And so you keep pushing down your ideas because you don't know which one's right, which one's not right.
Yep.
So there's a lot of confusion in this season. Even self-conscious of your ideas. You're like, because I'm uncertain of that idea, I'm sort of uncertain of myself.
Yeah, totally.
Super uncomfortable.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah.
I hate being stalled.
Yeah. But when you're in that season, what you should not do is go spend all your money trying to find the answer.
No, that is not what you should do because it will actually undermine what you're trying to accomplish. A little bit of patience and a little bit of time off is probably what is needed in this season. Read more.
That's good.
Do stuff that nurtures your soul when you're in that stuck phase. Spending money to make money in the stalled phase is not going to work. It is only going to hurt more. And it's going to make your stalled phase much longer than it needs to be. One good thing you could do during the stalled phase, if you're in it, is you could do profit coaching. You could figure out what are your drivers of revenue? How are you making business decisions? What are the most profitable places in your business? How do we put energy to those things? How do we make sure that life is flowing to the right parts of your business so you love it again? If that means you cut one part of your business off so that you love it again, then that's what you do. But you spending money on a marketing program or anything like that is only going to make it worse.
Right. Yeah, it's perfect because the desire at the stage of being stalled, what we're desiring in that season of life is for what's real, right? Yeah. And so this is why it's perfect that you said that, because when you start to hone in on what are the real drivers of revenue, you can, and you actually shared this in a previous episode with the guy who had, I think you talked about snowplows and a work crew and whatever. He basically was spending $200,000 to make 20,000, something, right? It's like. And he decided to cut this big thing off. And there was this reinvigoration of what was real about his, this is the real thing in my business. This is where I need to put my effort. Yeah.
And he had a total shift.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is perfect because the solution in that stage is to find purpose, right? Yeah. Whereas you're stymied, you want to find perspective. When you're stalled, you need to start to find your purpose. And when you find purpose in your business, now you can actually move on to the next stage.
Yeah, that's good, Chris.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So let's do the next stage. So this is sort of the last piece of the beginning of your return journey into, until you die. And this third phase is really kind of the season of life that I would call your life's work. Like, this is the part where you're like, okay, I am going all in, all chips in on this, because this is my soul. This is my fingerprint all over this thing. I have purpose and I'm ready to scale. So the third season, or the third phase of this, is scaling.
Mm-hmm.
Once you know what your purpose is, the attributes of somebody in the scaling phase now is where they were frustrated and stymied and anxious and stalled, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're now actually like ready. They're like, I am ready. It almost feels like when you first got into business, because you're like, yes, I see it. I'm excited. Let's go. It's the same thing. You're ready. You're open. You're connected to your purpose. And there's this renewed energy about what you're up to in the world, right?
Yep.
This is very exciting. Very exciting time. But here are some of the downsides of this, right? I mean, for me, I'm just coming into this season, but I think what's cool is, for me, I'm like, yes, ready. And then here's the watch out for this. You can start to chase ideas, right? Because every idea starts to sound good, and you start to see how it can help you in your purpose. And so you start having this ginormous to-do list, right? Because you read every book, listened to every podcast, right? And now you have this entire way you're going to conquer the world and scale.
Yeah.
But you're chasing ideas. So guess what happens to your money?
When you're chasing ideas. Yeah. Bye-bye now.
Right.
But I will say this. When people are in this stage, and they have figured out what to do with their money, what I like in my work is when they're in that stage, there is a level of creative license. And I really believe that people just need to like enjoy their business and enjoy making money and enjoy the freedom and enjoy all of those things. And also make sure you fully fund your retirement accounts and, the normal responsible adulting that we do as business owners,
right?
Pay our taxes, things like that. But in this phase, there's an element of when there's that invigoration and that creativity and we're looking at new opportunities or partnerships or whatever, I really see people step into like, in my case, I own my profit plan. I know where my money is going. I know what it's supposed to do. And I'm excited to go and put this over here to see what happens. Yeah. It isn't the thing like when we're stymied and stalled where we're like, oh my gosh, I have to build a course because I have to find a way to make money, or, oh my gosh, I've got to go buy that tractor, or like whatever I see, right? There's a sense of like urgency and desperation when we're stuck, like we buy something, and whether it's staff, like we buy a staff member that we think is going to change everything, or get new servers or whatever. We think it's going to be the game changer, but it's not. Yeah. But when we're in this stage over here, it's a different kind of bravado. Like I find that people are kind of settled into what they need to do to enjoy their business. And when they make that investment, like I know a guy who just went and spent $10,000 to go to a Tony Robbins conference. And he's in this season of just like, he's in his purpose. He's in this season. Yeah. And he spent $10,000 and I choked. I'm like, oh my, right. He's like, no, I'd do it again. Yeah. It felt so good. He was so certain so certain that his business was so healthy and that this was something he needed to do for him as a business owner. It's totally different than when we're over here and we're desperate for something to work. Yeah. So I want the audience to be encouraged that like when you get to this season, it isn't like, don't spend money, you bad little entrepreneur. Like I never say that anyway. But it's more like you can think more like an investor at that point. Right. And enjoy the process of where you put money creatively to enrich your life. Yeah. Charitable. Yeah. To change the world around you. Because you have purpose, because you're clear now about what your life's work is and you know where in the past where you try to squirrel money or put money into something, it's because you're trying to, it's a Hail Mary. Now it's actually, you're putting it there on purpose. Yeah. Right. But you just want to, especially in the beginning of the scaling season,
watch for these symptoms of chasing ideas, right? You might be putting in sleepless hours because you're so excited and invigorated by your thing. You're having sleepless hours. You might be super unfocused because you're chasing it all in the beginning. And you might be doing a lot of it alone, right? And this is in the beginning of it. So these are the things you want to start to backfill for, to support. So rather than chasing ideas, if you can meet with somebody like Leanne, for example, around your money, where it's like, okay, I don't want to chase ideas. And Leanne asked some really great questions about revenue drivers and things that where you start to get clear, like how to harness this money for your life's work.
Yep.
Now you don't have to lose money on chasing ideas. You can actually be really strategic about, like you said, where you're putting that money. So I think, let me just wrap up this with the scaling season of life. It's there is a pain point in that season where you can be scattered. You also can be suspicious because of people like, you're like, oh, I've read all sorts of profit books and I've read all sorts of things. So why, Leanne, are you any different? Or marketing stuff. You start to get skeptical about marketing things. If you're not careful, you get suspicious simply because you've lived long enough. You're street smart now about stuff. But that doesn't mean that you close off, right? Because you could, if you're suspicious, you could close people, you could shut people out. You don't do that. That's a way to kind of slide back into the stalled space. So watch for those symptoms. And you might seclude yourself because you're suspicious of people. You might isolate and be like, I don't trust people. Let me just go build my life's work on my own. Now that's not ideal, but that's some residue from earlier in life that you might bring with you if you're not careful. The fun part about this phase is that the question people are typically asking at this season of life is, it's not, is this as good as it gets? Or what's next for me? Now it's, how do I help more people, right? Because it's your life's work and you're clear. You're like, okay, I got it. Now I need to help more people. This is where you're at, Leanne. Like you're at a spot where like, it's like, let's go. Let's take this to the world. Let's go take this. You've made some very strategic decisions in the last month or two about previous businesses and all sorts of things so that you can organize your resources and your energy to this important work that you have for the world.
Absolutely. I'm ready.
Right. That's totally right. And here's a solution for you. If you guys are at the scaling phase of life, the solution in stymied is perspective. You need perspective. The solution installed is you need purpose, right? You need purpose because what you want is what's real. And so the solution in the scaling phase is you need a plan. You need a plan for what to do with your life's work. And here's what's so cool, Leanne. This is what you do. You give people a plan.
I do. I give them a profit plan.
Profit plan.
I love
That's
it.
Right. That's right. So good. Well, I think that's a good wrap. I mean,
thank you for sharing all that, Chris. It's refreshing to hear it again. As you're telling stories in each of these three phases, I'm thinking of people I'm working with right now. And it's really good perspective to and encouragement to know that wherever you are, you know what you need. Maybe you need perspective, maybe you need purpose, maybe you need a plan, and just go get that thing, whatever it is. Right. Yeah. And I just want to add one last thing. On that whole isolation thing you just talked about, that is an area that people, I would say in all phases, feel isolated. It's the area of finance. They are afraid to share their dirty laundry, so to speak. They're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of, I don't know, I don't want to talk about it. They just are, people are very isolated about their money, and they try to man up and go talk to a CPA, but they don't get the kind of advice that they need. And so sometimes that makes them really skeptical, I'll just keep it to myself. Right. But almost everybody I work with has some story that sounds like, hey, I reached a place where I wanted to do better about this side of my business, the financial side. And I went to this guru and I went to that guru and I didn't get any answers and I was worse off and spent all this money. And so that creates a natural isolation. And so if you are that person, if you're listening and you've gone to this person and that person, the solution is not isolation. The solution is talk to the right person. Right. Yeah. Right. I'm not the only person in the world that does this. But there's an element of, this is a totally different conversation than what does your P&L say. Right. So don't be isolated. And if you are feeling isolated, that's totally normal, and you can get out of it. I'm done.
Yep. So, it's so good. And the most logical place to start, I would say, is your profit discovery call.
Yeah. It's awesome. It gives perspective. We just talk about your business.
Yeah. And it's a free call. I think it's a great way to test drive Leanne's perspective and to see if it's a fit. Like, you never know if something's a fit until you're actually able to try it. And I think what's so cool about what you're doing, Leanne, with the profit discovery call is like, sometimes people want a lot of money up front before they'll do any work. I feel like you go in and ask really good questions to get perspective and help people get unstuck, right? For free in a profit discovery call. It's like, and I mean, look, the intention there is like, if there's a fit and they feel like you can help them, like, then they can hire you to help them move it forward, right?
Yeah.
But
if not, they're just going to get a ton of value out of the call itself.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you guys can go to profitdiscoverycall.com and schedule time with Leanne. Profitdiscoverycall.com and schedule time with Leanne. So good. Awesome. Leanne, thank you. I'm super excited for the next one because I know it's coming in the next episode. Nobody wants to miss that. Nobody wants to miss that. But until then, Leanne, thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Chris.